Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first in a series of programs we hope you're going to enjoy called Neepawa Roundtable. The concept is simply bringing people, local residents in Neepawa, to talk about specific projects, or not necessarily projects, but items or issues. They can be topical, they can be historical. We're going to see where the program takes us. And today, our inaugural program, I'm really delighted to welcome some really well-known people within our community. Our topic today essentially is COVID versus music, but I'm sure it will go in all sorts of other directions knowing the guests. And first I'd like to introduce Carolyn Durston, who, for any of you who have taken lessons over the years or belong to community choirs or the choraleers, know Carolyn well, and she's well respected within our music community here and outside of it. Our next is Blair Chapman, a recently retired English teacher and music teacher at the high school, involved in a numerous, and still is, in the major productions as well as choirs. Once again, become a real player, for want of a better word, within the music scene, okay, that's Kim? It's just within the music scene. And then, of course, Angie Weisgerber,
correct,
who is our has been with HMK and is the music director there and in charge of all sorts of a lovely kids program, as well as participating in other choral groups and things like that. So welcome to this first, and we'll see where it goes. So COVID. We've had COVID for the past 2 years or a bit more. And so we're going to talk about how that's impacted, or how you feel it's impacted on the local music scene, what you've seen, and further abroad, what you're aware of, because clearly you have tendrils in music, not just within Neepawa. But I'm going to start first by asking you to talk a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing and what your likes are, just to give a sense of perspective for those people who don't know who you are. I can't believe there's many of those.
Are you looking at me?
Yes, I'm looking at you, Carolyn. We'll start with you.
Well, thank you. I've been teaching private lessons, piano, vocal, theory. I've been a conductor, a music educator, and a festival volunteer since 1977, because Jeffrey was born in 76, so
Holy cow.
I was tied up for
Wow.
a while.
Yeah.
So that's 45 years about. And I've seen it all until COVID, right?
Yeah.
And then there was so much activity in this community, and it just came to a crashing halt. It was one of the communities in the province that was setting standards and being looked at as, look at how they do it there, right? And suddenly it all had to come to a crashing halt, right? So for me, being in the situation I am in, which is two things: partially retired and immune suppressed at this point. So my music class, my private music class, is quite a bit smaller than it used to be. And the biggest impact of COVID on that was that the interruptions that it brought to lessons, okay? And it just slowed the progress of the students down, because we'd nice to get going and then we'd shut down again. And it's pretty hard to keep momentum going when that's happening all the time. And there's a little bit of sporadic reinforcement for their success, and also for making sure that their technique is correct, or their reading the notation is correct, and all those little things that you just catch quickly, right? So in a regular year, I would usually have about 25 lessons. In the 2 years of COVID, in 2020, my students only had 15 lessons. And in 2021, they had 17. And I don't know what's happening this year, but it's a little bit more back to normal. But we are strictly following the protocols that the public health set out, because for my own private situation, that's the way it has to be.
That makes sense.
So that's what's happening in terms of my private class.
Okay.
And someone else needs to talk now.
Okay. Well, we're going to follow up on some of the things you said.
Okay.
So, Blair, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, go with age as opposed to beauty.
Beauty is always first and last.
So I was just trying to think back,
Yeah.
so it's been hard to keep track of things as the 2 years have gone on. And I know that Carolyn talked about events and things that are happening in the community, and one of my memories is my high school choir, 45 or so strong, in the new middle school music room, meeting with the choraliers and the community choir to prepare some pieces for a concert for the festival. It was festival. And just how amazing that sounded and how fun it was. And at the same time, getting together with my group Swamp Gas to prepare ourselves for a job that was coming up in McCreary at the Maple Syrup Festival. I think it was Maple Syrup. And gone.
Yeah.
Got a phone call, no gig in McCreary. Clearly, as the schools were closing down and kids were at home, we weren't able to continue practicing, and the rest of that year for the choir was done. The next year was, we weren't scheduled for a major production. So we were. It was that year when we canceled. We didn't have one scheduled. And my heart broke for the high schools and junior high, everyone, all the schools, community theater that had to shut down right in the middle of what would be prime rehearsal time and getting ready. So then last year, it impacted the school program because we put off the choir class till second semester. Usually would alternate so that we're singing throughout the year. Put off to the second semester, and we really weren't able to sing. We were able to hum for a little while, and you might not be surprised how quickly that gets very old. Humming was not great. We got lots of support from our administration. We played ukuleles. Kids were in the hallway playing ukuleles, and lots of teachers commented about how much they enjoyed hearing a bit of music because you just didn't hear it. The jazz band rehearsed outside in the courtyard. In mornings. It got pretty chilly some mornings, but they're a pretty dedicated bunch, so Mr. Hodge had them out there. And we were promoting a production of Mamma Mia. Got lots of excitement going about that, but as the year progressed, it was clear that was not going to happen. So that was, it was a long year, no question.
Okay. Angie.
Yes. Let's see. We were talking earlier, and I moved to Neepawa fresh out of university in the fall of '99, and I'm going on year 23 of teaching. So it's I came for 2 years, and I've stayed. I've obviously loved Neepawa, and it's been very good to me. So I teach K-4 music at HMK School, and it's been a long 2 years, but there's been some positives happen, despite all of our shutdowns and things that have happened. So, some of the good things I think out of it is that we were really able to focus a lot on rhythm at an elementary level, and really the kids' reading skills of their rhythm really just skyrocketed. Yeah, the cutting of the singing broke my heart because having children's voices again fill the school and unable to do performances, festival, concerts, it really took a toll on a lot of people's hearts. So it was a long 2 years, but I'm happy to say we're able to sing now, and how excited the kids are to be able to use their voices as they're meant to, and making music again. And there's just something that you can't replace than the singing voice, I believe. So
And certainly not by humming.
no.
Humming does not do it. Can I jump in?
Absolutely.
Because we're back to performing. The senior band had a concert on the 5th, I think it was. The choir is hosting a concert June the 1st at the Roxy Theatre. Everyone's invited. The jazz band's going to play with us, and the middle school band teacher, Kaylin McDermott, has some ensembles that are going to play. And then I believe the next week, the week after that, is the middle school band concert. Do a little promoting here in the middle of the discussion.
No problem at all.
But just the excitement on some of the students' faces when they knew they were going to get to perform. And some of the jazz band students who came and like said to me, "Thank you for inviting us. We're so excited." Like it was just a big deal. You know, music is something you do for yourself, you enjoy, but it's also about sharing it with people and the not being able to share it.
Well, that leads me to spring off of something you were saying, Carolyn, and you guys have also alluded to, is that sense about performance. We talk about the festival, we talk about it's not just simply, as you say, singing, but it's also performing, right? So talk to me, because you're mostly, except Carolyn, when you have your choral ears, mostly dealing with younger people in terms of your lessons and students and things like that, and certainly from the school perspective. Not having something like the festival or having the ability to showcase, it sounds like it's really important. Talk to me about why that's important. Why is it important in the process of musicality or music within the community? Start?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just finished. Carolyn, do you want to?
Well,
The value of performance.
the value of performance.
for
Wow.
a musician.
Where do I start? Well, my experience through the festival has been, that's where I see the most growth in students, because you see the students coming back year after year, and it's just amazing how they start and where they end, right? And so there's always been this debate in music, like, performance doesn't matter. I think it does. And it builds confidence. They get recognition of their progress, because music by itself is kind of a lonely pursuit, you know, when you have to practice.
Hours on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they get rewarded for their effort, even if it's just because people are clapping, you know, and that kind of thing. They get new ideas about how to do things, what kind of music is out there. So there's so many benefits to that kind of performance within the structure of the festival. But then you have the more open concept of when there's a concert, or it's just put on by the group and they invite friends to come and enjoy or share, present their own kind of music, you know. And I think there's a mental health issue here as well in the things, because when the choraliers, for instance, got back last fall and we were able to put on that Christmas event virtually, like nobody was ever everybody in the building was there by themselves, like we just observed the protocols, had to. And it was so well received in the community. And when I watched that program and I saw the looks on my singers' faces, I just thought, there it is. That's what this is about. That joy of making something together, you know, and that it's a connection that I don't find very many other places. And I would say similarly in the church choirs, like when the church choirs have been locked down as well, and it's pretty hard to play hymns when nobody's singing.
Yes, that's quite true.
Yeah, and so the lack of this opportunity, in my opinion, would just be another thing where there would a delay in the process and the progress that children go through to learn how to perform.
Well, to me, music, because it's hard to find somebody who doesn't have some kind of musicality, whether it's just listening or it's rhythm or it's movement. The ability to limit that, and you talked about the mental health, and we know that mental health has been a real target for everything that's happened with COVID, with homeschooling, with between parents, between kids, fragmented, now you can, now you can't, we're locked down, we're not locked down. I mean, it's all history, but it's all had its effect. So both you, Blair, and you, Angie, have had kids go into the festivals, right?
Yes.
Same kind of thoughts.
Yeah, like I've had school choirs go normally into the festival for performance, and classroom choirs as well, and also private piano students. So I highly encourage as many students to go into the festival as they would like to. At a school point, yeah, definitely it gives everyone a goal to work towards and to strive towards. I find if kids have that end goal and they're working at finishing, say, a challenging piece of, say, piano or a vocal piece, then, just setting that goal for themselves and getting input from another professional besides myself, right? That another adjudicator, just giving them positive feedback, and this experience of getting up and performing, not stressing. It certainly doesn't have to be perfect, but it's the whole process of making music. And I think I really miss playing the duets with students. I loved the evening performance that was organized with the festival, where we would have parents up there playing with their children duets, and I would hear from multiple families that that was the highlight of their festival too. Just parents were nervous, but they were so excited they did it, and so just bringing everyone together, and it was such a happy moment for everyone. So we're really missing that. This week I've been able to play some duets with some of my private kids, and it's fun again, right? We're able to meet and we're able to play together and make the music, and that's a huge part of it. The one thing I really miss too with our school choirs is at the festival we would do performances, and then we would always have a clinic, and that was amazing, because not only were the students learning, I was getting feedback for myself, and also things that I could take into my classroom and work on their vocal skills or their musicality and interpreting pieces. And yeah, I miss that. And speaking as a choir, when we did the Christmas performance, I think everyone had a smile ear to ear. Like, it was amazing. It was phenomenal. And as soon as I got that YouTube link, I sent it off to my mom in Ontario. You have to watch this.
But no one could see the smiles, right?
Well, actually, we could.
Did you?
Because you were
able-
well separated.
Yes,
Oh,
we were
okay.
able to unmask.
And that wasn't the case for the high school choir. I think I made the decision that
Okay.
we would remain masked.
It's
Just given the situation in the schools,
Yeah.
I
Right.
just
That
wanted to
makes
err on the
sense.
side of
well,
caution.
COVID presented a lot of these challenges, a lot of these semi-compromises, or just simply not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So COVID's done, and we talked about returning to normal. What is normal? What would normal look like? How much has COVID, with the effects of COVID, impacted? Has it changed the dynamic in any way as you look at moving forward?
Can I say a little bit about performance and exams and festivals,
Yes.
and that musicians are human, and sometimes we need deadlines in order to achieve goals.
Yeah.
That's a
And without that I want to say looming makes it sound
Yeah.
scary, but sometimes we can just sort of we can enjoy music but just sort of kind of wallow a little bit, and those deadlines, with those goals you're working towards,
you're
where
actually
you
consciously
have a
working on it,
difficult
yeah.
piece and you
Right.
want to get that ready.
Exactly.
So that and also I think in performance, when you're singing, playing, performing for an audience, you do things in a way that you never did them in rehearsal.
Yeah, performance is always different.
And so the goal in the musicals, major production, is always to try to get them to that point, get them
Yeah.
as close as you can to is this the way we're going to do in performance? And yet every night of a major production, you'd see things you've never quite seen, or you finally saw that thing you've been asking for, and there it was. Having an audience is scary as well as encouraging and supporting, right? It's puts a little,
sure.
and when that adrenaline starts going, you perform at a level that you haven't done before.
Well, when you do
So
perform,
different.
you're putting yourself out there as opposed to just rehearsing and practicing.
Absolutely.
You've got people who are listening,
Yes.
and you know that they're evaluating what you're doing and critiquing, right? Whether they say it or not, that's part of what it is. It's your opening yourself up to the world to
It
hear
is.
what you're doing.
Even when you know it's the most forgiving and kind
Yes.
audience you'll ever have in your
Right.
life. Your parents, your grandparents,
Yeah.
aunts and uncles,
Yeah.
friends. It's still an audience that you're performing for. So losing that and just being in rehearsal has always been difficult. How do you motivate? Right? What are you striving for when those rewarding experiences are taken away? And I think we're seeing. I'll start on what's the normal look like now. It looks very tentative. It looks like, and I think throughout the school, I've had conversations with a number of teachers who've said, trying to re-engage students, trying to get them to talk in class, to ask a question, to challenge something. I see it in choir, physics classes, bio classes, English classes, conversations there. Just, 2 years of having a mask over your face, just being on a screen, not being in the same physical space with the people you're engaged with.
Yeah.
I think we're having to retrain a few of those muscles.
I think
Sure.
there's no question about that, because one of the things we do know, the research is saying that that's exactly what's happening. People have become more inward with themselves. They may have communicated over the internet or virtually, but themselves. And so I was curious about that with regards to music, because music is a very visceral thing. And I wondered if that would be similar to the social challenges we're seeing now with young people. What are you seeing in the schools right
Well,
now?
at the school, I was thinking this for the last 2 years, our group of kindergartens and grade ones, this is all they know
Yes.
at the school
Yes.
level.
Yeah.
They don't know anything. What is normal
Yeah.
to them? What's a normal school year like? What is it to play with all my friends outside of my cohort? Right? And so what is it like to be able to come in at the bell instead of lining up and waiting and keeping my distance and standing on this dot or this
And what are you
dot?
seeing with that as you're observing that?
You know what? As soon as the mask mandate was recommended to be lifted, it was a hesitant start. Also, I would say we probably had, I would say on average we have 21 students per class, give or take, and probably the first week I would say all but maybe a handful of kids had masks off.
Oh.
And then as the week went on, and by the second week, it was about half the kids had masks on. And so I think that was just the comfort level of the family as well. And of course, I looked at my grade 4s today, and I think there was about 3 per class that are wearing masks. So they're feeling, I think, more comfortable, and they're feeling like they're not so guarded and not in their own little bubble as much. We've been able to bring desks closer together to be in groups instead of having desks 2 meters, a meter apart. So it's
Children can be a lot more resilient than adults when change comes.
They were amazing. When we heard last fall that everyone K to 12, I guess, had to be masked. Honestly, we thought, oh my goodness, how are young students going to be able to handle this, right? And for the majority, I was amazed. I had little kindergartens that they kept their mask right up there. They're still wearing them. They were little troopers, and they're singing through their mask, and they are doing a great job. You'd have to really maybe go a little closer to hear what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
And one thing what I was given by my admin in my music room was a cordless mic and a Bluetooth speaker, and it saved my voice because having the mask on, I just couldn't project my voice. The kids are literally spread out all over the music room, and I have a good sized music room. We're up on the risers, we're 2 meters apart, and just trying to project your voice through a mask, I know my voice wouldn't have lasted. So the microphone definitely saved me, and it's something I'll continue to use. So when I talked about there have been some positives come out of this, just things, tools that we're able to use, I think going forward, that's one thing I'll definitely keep. But yeah, overall, everyone seems happy. The kids were so excited the week we can sing. They were just very excited.
Are you seeing the same thing in some of your private lessons? You talked you had to back off on the frequency because of COVID.
Yeah.
Since that's gone, do you see any kind of sort of resurgence again of what it was like before? or is it still sort of working through that process?
I would have to say my students are kind of from a sheltered community anyway, the majority of them.
Okay.
And there hasn't been that much change for them through that regard.
Okay.
So that we're still following the protocols at my house with the masking and all the rest of it, but they're okay with that. Probably everybody's just a bit more relaxed, if I could use that word.
Okay.
That would be the only thing. I have a couple of singers, and we're still distancing to do that. And I don't think there's been too much change for them within that whole sphere, because they're used to it wherever they go. So.
I want to pick up on a point you made, Carolyn, with regards to there was so much going on. This was a vibrant musical community and all sorts of new ideas and things going on. So let's start talking about what you would like to see happen to move back towards that, because clearly it's not going to be like a rubber band.
Right.
Where would you see as a starting point? Let's start with you.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to hear that there was a recital this last week, I think, someone had, and you're planning a big thing at the
June
Roxy.
the 1st.
June the 1st.
At the Roxy
At the
Theatre,
Roxy, yeah.
7 o'clock in the evening. There was a
Yes.
band concert. There's another band
Yes.
concert coming up the week after, I think the 8th, 7th or 8th, this is the Wednesday
Yeah.
for the middle school.
Okay, so
Yes.
yes, I think that's going to be the start. If it can get started in the schools, then the other things will probably follow. And so, yeah,
Has
I'm hoping.
there been an impact on the number of students signed up for vocal or piano lessons that you're aware of? Like,
I've had a reduction.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm. Well, mine was quite deliberate. Like, I just haven't been taking new students
Right.
basically for the last 5 years anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I know the teacher who's at Arts Forward right now has her class was very cut back as well too. But I think it's the parental concern
Yes.
about the exposure and stuff like that. So, but I think it's growing again. Like, she's there 2 days a week.
okay.
Like,
Oh, that's good.
one's pretty full day and the other is part day. So
Good.
this is a lady coming from Gladstone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This might be a little sideways, but I just got a letter from Brandon University today, and sort of, I think, revealed the fact that they've been suffering. I mean, they have been suffering as well. I know that.
Oh, yes.
Graham played in the jazz band, and that had to stop at BU. And just the impact it had on music students was just pretty
Oh, huge.
traumatic, I think. But
absolutely.
just anticipated lower enrollment in the School of Music, and sort of reaching out to music teachers and sort of are there students that are interested? Here are the kind of things we're doing to encourage them. They recognize that it's going to take a little. The elastic's not going to snap right back. as you
Yeah.
said.
Oh, exactly.
A huge
Well, I
impact.
think once you have a pattern and it's part of the process and it's just part of the way you do business, and suddenly that stopped, regaining it to the same degree is not that easy as one would think. And sometimes it returns, but perhaps in a different format. So you talked about how important you all have about the festival, that piece of performance, that piece of critique, the evaluation. Clearly they're going to look at festival again. Is there any suggestions you might have? Have you learned anything from COVID that would say, let's change it, or keep it the way it is, or should there be more, or is it time to upgrade it? I mean, here's an opportunity to start fresh. Who wants to start with that?
Well, one of the wonderful things about the festival is that it adapts, and we can adapt to almost anything. COVID proved a little bit too
Yeah.
challenging, just because of the people involved in the festival. Everything they were doing was challenging, like their
Yes.
jobs, their families,
Yeah.
so, and it just, you've only got so much energy, and
And one of the other things for everything, sorry,
no, that's
Listen,
fine.
the amount of lead time you need to make some of the things happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
like the rehearsal schedule for a musical production at the high school.
sure.
Yeah.
The booking of facilities, the putting all the pieces in place, and like a
Yeah.
festival committee,
Right.
booking adjudicators. You know, Kaleidoscope, their concert series, right? They kept working at it, but they had to cancel some and change some dates and change some venues, and like, you know, so it took, and I think it wore people out a little bit too. But just that,
Yes.
it's not something you just say, well, you know, we've got an opening, COVID's down, let's do the musical next week.
Yeah.
Just
Doesn't happen.
doesn't happen.
No,
But
it doesn't,
you know,
does it?
and on that line, like even when the Corliers were getting back together, and we waited because in January they had another outbreak, so we didn't start then. We started in February, March. Every Tuesday night was a snowstorm.
Yeah, right.
You know,
certainly the weather did not cooperate
And
this
so
year
it's-
at all.
Let's not get four Manitobans started on the weather.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay,
it
because
was-
we could go on forever.
But it was like the straw that was going to break the
Yeah.
camel, because like I was going, now what, you know, and the ladies would show up and they'd be, oh, well, all those couldn't come because the
Yeah.
roads were closed, or what, you know, like it was
yeah.
just one more,
It's crazy.
what do they call, nail in the coffin?
Yeah.
Kind of
Yes,
thing. It was
yes.
that-
Well, and as you're trying to open the coffin,
Yeah.
right?
You
You're
just
you're
you
trying
gotta
to
peek,
right,
I'm
and then
scratching.
bang, it's down again.
right, and then you open a little more, and you just
Yeah.
it's a long process.
Interesting analogy. We're talking about music and coffins. Dirges come to mind. But so,
Yeah.
you know, when you're looking at your teaching program now, it's back more to where it was before,
It's so
or
much better because I'm actually in my classroom this year. Last year I was teaching on a cart, so I was going
that must
class.
have been precarious in terms of balance if you're on a cart.
It's interesting. Yeah, I got pretty good at pushing that cart around and.
Because the kids couldn't come to the music room.
No,
You had to go to that.
I went to each separate classroom. Right,
Wow.
exactly. So I had my
Stay in the COVID.
laptop, my data projector. I'd go in there. The kids knew when
Yeah.
I was plugging stuff in, and oh yeah, we had it down to a science by June.
Yeah.
But luckily, I had a student teacher with me, and so when we got into our ukulele unit, well, then I had two carts. Good thing I had my student teacher. She pushed the cart of ukuleles. I pushed my regular cart, and I had everything in there, and you name it, puppets, rhythm cards, music, books, everything. Yeah, and so that was quite entertaining. And I definitely learned to be on a schedule and a tight schedule, and running out to the huts. I just would bring my little bag full of glockenspiels.
Oh,
and
wow, yeah.
Good
it was
Lord.
pretty comical. And the kids would hear, oh, here comes Mrs. Weisgerber, because all they'd hear is clink, 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 clink down the hallway.
They didn't need to bell the cat. You already had
Right,
the music
it was
room
quite
down.
comical, and you know what? You just had to roll with it, because what could you do if you couldn't let it get you down? Because you're still able to make music. I didn't have to be pulled from teaching music. That I was still able to do my specialty, and thank goodness I wasn't pulled to become. Filling a different
yeah.
classroom, because at that point we had
That
to
happened
have
to
more
lots of
classrooms
specialty
made.
people, eh?
Exactly, in the
Oh,
city especially.
okay.
Yeah.
So that really impacted
And
there.
that unknown for a lot of my friends that teach in Winnipeg, they weren't by the, I think it was the day before school started, they still didn't know if they were teaching music or a classroom. So I was very thankful I was able to continue the music program, and
And
we
again,
did
kudos to division administration in the schools and
Absolutely.
the office to find ways to make it work. It wasn't
Manage.
perfect, but
Exactly.
I want to follow up a little bit more on something that was said. We talked about mental health and the impact. Okay, so we all agree that during COVID, it did have an impact on parents' mental health, students. Now that it's not there, are you seeing any differences? Are you seeing any changes? We had a good long window of 2 years to see what that impact was, that reduction in terms of social interaction, being more confined, not being able to get out, not physicality. Because I know in other areas, there's a real focus on trying to get more physical engagement,
Right.
because for so long there wasn't. It's the same. Is it being the same with music, or is
Well,
music one of those?
Yeah.
Now I can sing.
I think at the school level, like let's see, going back a year, that's when families had the option of keeping their kids home and learning from home or coming to school. So that year, it felt like you were restarting the year multiple times, because
Yeah.
then you'd have an
Different.
influx of families that, oh, kids are back in school.
Okay.
And then you'd go another month or two and there'd be more students trickling in. And so by March, I think we were, I'm not sure the percentage, but we'd get more and more students coming in back to school. So I felt quite disjointed that first year getting to know the students. So I didn't feel like I had that strong connection that I normally would. Of course, they're
Yeah.
masked, so that was a big challenge, especially for our new kindergartens coming in, never seeing their faces before, right? And then suddenly
Oh, now
they're...
that's interesting.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
'Cause it's like,
you
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
know their
Okay.
eyes, and yeah,
Can I tell a quick story?
absolutely.
sure.
Choir all in their masks, but I have them come in for a one-on-one 2 or 3 times during the year. And we distanced, and I asked, is it okay? Would you be willing to unmask? They take their masks off, and I go, oh, hello. That's not how I am, imagine.
Yeah, I've had that happen before. You meet somebody with just a
Exactly.
mask, and then you see them and say, that's not at all how I pictured what was under
Well,
that
and
mask.
I felt bad because as the masks came off, I thought, I'm going to walk by people in the hallway that I should be saying hello to. I'm not
Exactly.
going to recognize them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was...
Interesting.
Yeah.
But a very real consequence
and just
of COVID.
that just a different kind of connection.
Totally different.
Right.
And especially that first year where I was running here, running there, I felt like I was always trying to catch up, and that I didn't have that time to just chat with kids that I normally would, or take a couple seconds as they're coming in the door. How are you doing? How's your day? And the kids always have a story to tell you, and you just didn't have time the first year. This year, majority of kids are back, right from September on, and so I feel like we're able to make those connections. It's not so rushed. I feel like things are okay. I can breathe between classes, and I don't feel like, where am I going next, or
That's affected you. Carolyn, you do a lot of stuff in the community choirs, and how are you finding that and people coming back and the kind of response? I know you mentioned, isn't this wonderful? But
Oh yeah.
when you're back at it, what are you seeing out there?
Well, for one thing, the numbers are down in the Corliers, right?
Okay.
Just because of circumstances and different people, people having different things that they need to be able to be sure they can do, right? So, and there was a little bit of tentativeness before, but in the last few practices that we had, I felt that had disappeared a little bit, and everyone was feeling a little more relaxed about things. And we were also rehearsing in a bit smaller room, so that it made a difference in what we could hear and what we could do with the sound that we had.
Yeah.
So I just felt it was a good way to end our year in the new space. It was still at Arts Forward, but it just worked very well, didn't it, Angie,
Yes,
for
it
those
did.
rehearsals? Yeah. And we actually got more done in those last 2 rehearsals than we did all of February, March.
Oh, wow.
You know, so
Well, just because the environment had changed.
yeah.
At the end of last year, we were able to sing, but it had to be outdoors. And we still had to be masked. We still had to be 6 foot distanced. And it didn't work.
No.
The kids couldn't hear each other. Students couldn't hear each other. I couldn't hear them. You're just all spaced out. And I mean, part of that singing together is hearing those other voices and
It's
blending,
other
and
voices,
you want to hear the sound of the choir. And we did some other things. It just was not. it
Masks
didn't work very well.
outside.
I can't remember.
I know.
I've written
Yeah.
through
So
so
many
many
changes.
variations.
Yeah.
Yes.
I maybe we could take them off, but even being
Yeah.
6 feet apart and spread around in the open air, it was hard to hear. even
Well,
without the
singing
mask.
outside without a mask is hard enough.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
the sound just disappears if you don't
yes.
have an acoustic feedback,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what you're after.
So if we're looking going forward, about, okay, our community was very vibrant with its musicality. How or what do we need to do? We're talking about existing things. The school's a very closed environment. It's very contained. If we're taking a look at the community, what do you folks suggest we start looking at doing to not just reintroduce what we were doing before, but clearly re-engage people and increase the number of people who are interested in participating? Do you have any thoughts? What would you see as something we can do? Do we need a large musical event that incorporates all sorts of different things? Reinstitute certainly the festival? What ideas would you have? Because if we're looking at reconnecting with our community, it's, as we said, it's not going to snap back. What should we be doing? You guys have been in this long enough. You should have some. Well, you should. It would be nice if you had some ideas. There we go. I don't want to put pressure on.
Yeah, that's
Blair. No, someone else.
I don't know.
Well, and I think our community's changed so much that I think, asking our community what do we need to do, or what are their ideas,
And finding the avenues to get the word out. So if
Yeah.
there is an opportunity that that various media are used to let people know.
because there's musicians out there that
Oh,
we don't know about, and so many
absolutely.
talented people,
I
but they
discovered
just
one
don't
today.
have a venue.
No, I'm not sharing.
You're not sharing. Music is a very competitive
business. Yeah.
But your point's well taken, that we don't know, and so maybe it means, do we look at some kind of collective that taps into and says, look, we want to consider how we would re-engage and what we would do to do that. And certainly we have the ability to access social media and to go through the schools and through other kinds of groups, the churches, organizations, a variety of things. Do we need to do that? And if so, what would that look like, or how would we go about doing it?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
The only thing that comes to my mind was that the biggest thing that ever happened was the Christmas thing at the Yellowhead, where all of the singers could come and share in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a place
think
to
that's-
start
Okay.
in
Yeah.
some.
And sort of, and I don't know, like reaching out to groups that maybe had not responded in the past. And again, it's been a while. There's been a bit of a break, time to sort of reach out again. Or
Well, and
I
in
like the Christmas
fall-
idea.
In the fall, we always had the Deja Vu concerts, right?
Yeah,
At
right.
the Roxy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was
Oh.
involved in 3 of those, and that was a really neat experience,
fun.
just to see the people in the community that are highlighted. It's like, wow, I didn't know
And
that person.
Exactly.
Look at the talent there. Look at the creativity, and this person really likes to be on stage, and it'd be really neat to get into not just the music aspect, but maybe more the drama side and other arts, and see if it'd be interesting to see. But you need a strong base of volunteers to organize something like that. And where do you start? Could you do a big concert down at the Riverbend Park, an outdoor concert? I don't know.
I'm going to ask something. We clearly in our community here in the surrounding area have had a huge influx of newcomers. And they come from countries with lots of music. Is there been a sort of a challenge to involve them or engage them into our existing kind of music situation, or has that not been as much of an issue?
I can still recall the first couple of Filipino singers in my senior high choir. Claire, Ram, a few names like that.
Yeah, okay.
And and every year that got stronger and stronger and more.
It just took a few.
It just takes a few to kind of break the ice, and this year the majority of the choir.
Okay.
Right.
What are you seeing in? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead. Let you finish.
no, I'm good.
Okay. What are you seeing in the elementary school?
Basically everybody sings, and so it's just they're especially the kids from, say, the Philippines.
Yeah.
That's part of their culture. And I remember when I was also teaching grade 5, it was the grade 5 boys from the Philippines. They were the strongest singers. They weren't shy at all. They were just, really. And then it seemed like our whole melding came together. More and more students weren't as shy to sing out, and it, like you say, it just takes a few to kind of break the ice and then build up from there.
Go ahead.
Another thing would be leadership as well. Our current band teacher at the high school is leaving at the end of this term.
Oh,
and
really?
His replacement is a brand new grad from Brandon University, who student taught with him a couple of years ago and played in the pit for my last musical. And she is a Filipino lady, and she's taking over the senior music program. So, and she, I think that will inspire even more involvement.
So
That's great.
there's optimism going forward, but still wondering about what would be the first step if we looked at trying to re-engage the community again. You're re-engaging in your own individual kinds of situations, but if we're taking a look at the community and having it more, because I think you're right, I think most people have some sense of musicality, whether they, doesn't matter if they can't sing or can't dance or can't play, but they appreciate music.
Right.
And can either hum along, in which case humming is appropriate at that time given some of our voices, but how do we start that? Because we need to start it somewhere. I mean, do we need to do more of a media campaign out there to say, are you aware that you can engage in these things? Are you aware that these are there?
Right.
That everybody's welcome to
Yes.
attend? That there are private lessons you can get?
Right.
You know?
I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago at Arts Forward for community groups that run events, and they were talking about a calendar to be aware of what events are going on. It was not just an arts thing. And I wonder if, and just the way in which every group sort of does its thing, and you're not always, I mean, as they went around the table and I listened to people talk about all the things that were going on, I was like, holy smokes, like
There's a lot going
there's so
on.
much going on, and you and you can't engage with it all necessarily, but a way for you to know what's there. Arts Forward, I think does a great job of promoting programming and making people aware, and maybe that's a place to be sort of a kind of a clearinghouse or a central location for promotion of music in particular.
It was one of the things that was hoped for. Community calendars are an interesting animal. They only work if you have one person dedicated to ensuring it's kept up to date, and all community partners make sure they
Submit
send the
their
information.
The
Yeah.
information.
Yep.
It's a wonderful idea. It makes perfect sense.
But if
It's
one of those
logical.
things isn't there,
Well, yeah, you miss it, or it didn't, that kind of thing. But okay, I agree with you. I think we've long over the years, before it was Arts Forward, it was the Viscount Cultural Council, trying to develop some kind of central hub or repository of that kind of information. You can continue on. You've got a thought.
Well, I'm just wondering where social media comes in here, because I don't do social media. And if I don't do social media, I don't know what's going on, right? And if you're not, and that's by my own choice, I just decide that, no, I don't need that.
Fair enough.
But it seems to have pervaded our whole life in that way. So I don't know how you go about milking that.
Actually,
because
I hear what you're saying. You're right. It's intrinsic to however we approach, because especially our younger generation.
if we want to engage.
but it's almost too pervasive, in my opinion. Because everything has to be there. No, it doesn't. But everything is there, but a lot of it's there that doesn't need to be there also.
But we're also
I'm
talking
talking
about a
in circles.
generational difference.
Oh,
where
absolutely,
they've been raised
yes.
where this is how they interact with the world, as opposed to pre-social media, pre-cell phones, where the interaction was sitting down talking.
Right.
And you're right, it's a challenge, it is pervasive, but it isn't a tool to get information across. And it's a mixed blessing, let's say.
Yes.
And I think if you're going to engage younger musicians and a younger generation, that's
That's
the
where
place where it has to
That's
happen.
the norm
And
now.
if you're not sort of
Yes.
really excited about leaping in and getting involved in that, finding younger people that are technologically savvy, that can
Technically
take
savvy,
care of
yeah.
that,
Yes.
manage that piece.
And you mentioned something about deja vu and opportunities for people. I remember kids renting the Arts Forward and putting, you remember? I don't know what kind of band it was, but
Yeah.
it was pretty, but it was great. It was exciting. And to somehow encourage more of that, because now I'm going back a ways, but in our high school, we had no canned music. It was all bands. Every high school had at least 2 bands. People were in bands because that was the thing. You
Certainly.
didn't have the other media. So to have records was sort of, ooh, and to have a video would be, oh, this is pretty boring, You always had live bands.
Yeah.
So people were engaged in music other than just, the choirs and that kind of thing. And I'm sure there's people out there that want to do that. So again, thinking about how we would go about doing that, because I think music is a very important part in any community, whether it's 3 people or 3,000 or 30,000 or
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
It adds a dimension to the community. There's just such a personal interaction with it that you don't get in anything else, because it's personally satisfying, it's group connections and cooperation, and it's pleasure for people to watch. I mean, it's just got so many things going for it, or listen to, and it's just,
well, live, there's that connection, right?
Oh.
Yes.
Between the performer or performers and
Yeah.
and the audience, and it's just wild.
And I think if we learned anything over the last 2 years, is that watching something on a screen is not the same.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, what would we have done if we did not have those over the last
Right.
2 years? What would the challenges have been? So thank goodness we
Yes.
did. But the difference between this
yes.
and looking at a bunch of computer screens,
Yes.
Right.
it's different, and in lots of important ways.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was certainly challenging trying to do piano lessons
Oh.
over Zoom.
Jeez.
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh, it was quite an
I
experience.
can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy did some acting lessons over Zoom.
Oh, wow.
Just he had
Yeah.
some students, and
Yeah.
it was a challenge.
Yeah.
We're coming close to the end, and I want to give you all an opportunity for final comments. And I'm going to start with you, Angie, in terms of your final comments.
My final comments is, oh gosh, I'm so happy with how things have opened up and moved forward, and we're able to sing and make music. I'm just happy with that. It's such a gift to be able to share your music, and I would encourage you, if you're interested in doing something musical, maybe start with reaching out to one of us or contact the Arts Forward, and maybe we can continue on with this conversation and try to get some things happening in the community and get some more feedback from people.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you. Blair.
It's nice to feel optimistic and be able to look forward to performances and singing and playing and creating music together. I think there'll be things that we didn't anticipate. Maybe that the last 2 years has taught us that as well, to kind of be ready to deal with whatever comes along. But I think as we go forward, it's going to be more and more on the positive side of things, and with Angie, encourage students at the schools to get involved in musical opportunities, to get together with friends, to make music, in bands and things like that, to sign up for major productions, to get involved in those things, and to seek out lessons, to sign up to play the piano or to sing, and get involved in those.
Thank you. First word, last word. What would you like to say?
I was afraid of that.
It's okay. What would you like to say?
I'm very, very optimistic that we will get back into the vibrancy that we had before. I think it will take time to come back, and I would be happier than if it suddenly exploded. I think it needs to evolve itself.
Mhm.
May I use that word?
Yeah.
My last word is it's such a unique human activity. No other animal can do it, right?
Mhm.
So, and the interest and the excitement when you are together doing it is always palpable. And I hope that will bring people back, and I hope that everything will evolve the way it needs to evolve because of our changes in society. Because we won't survive if we can't change. To roll with it.
Okay. Yes, on that note, yes, for sure. Adaptation. Well, thank you all for joining in on our very first Neepawa Roundtable. It's been a delight. The conversation and the topic was really a very important one, and I think a really good one to start with. And I'd really like to thank Carolyn Durston and Angie Weisgerber. There, I got it. And Blair, I can't remember his name, Chapman, for being here today and being very open with their thoughts and their ideas and their perceptions. Between the three of them, they have a wealth of experience and knowledge with not just music, but within our community and area. So thank you all for tuning in. We will be bringing another in this series. We're not quite sure when, but know that we're going to continue with this kind of a forum. Open conversation, friendly conversation. Well, at least there was no bloodletting in this one, so we're hoping this sets a precedent. So thank you all for tuning in. I'm Don Walmsley, your moderator today, and have a great summer. Bye.
I